So, following a fairly hefty course of this month's watching brief, we move on to uh, a story of some curious little beetles that have um, that have been found in an archive and point to an interesting climactic conclusion in terms of the history of Britain's climate. You seem particularly interested and excited by these bog beetles, Andy.
I love this story because I mean, we've had a fairly heavy month in terms of
Mm,
archaeological news, and our viewer who's persevered with the previous long segment will have got some idea of the difficult place we are in UK archaeology at the moment, and the difficult place perhaps we are in our personal emotional relationship with UK archaeology at the moment, and is it worth fighting for, and so on, and how do we fight for it,
mm,
and so on. So to get a story like this, which is about pure research and somebody going through an archive and spotting something that's actually serving to illuminate an aspect of the past, it just tied to, for me, it was just all the things that are good about and fun and interesting about what we do, and it's to do with a two beetles that are sort of quite big beetles, so they're described as sort of thumb size. So there you
mm,
go. That were preserved in a bog. They were came from East Anglia, found in East Anglia. They are called oak tree Capricorn beetles, and they're called Capricorn beetles because they're a bit like goat. They have these antennae, are a bit like big goats'
mm.
horns that sort of fold back across the back of their bodies. Um, and they were found in the archive of the Natural History Museum in London, and they've been carbon dated to round about three and three quarter, 4,000 years old. So
Mm,
they're sort of Bronze Age-ish, early Bronze Age-ish, and they're one of those climatic indicators because currently this particular type of beetle doesn't live as a native species in the UK because it's too cold. They prefer slightly warmer climates. But a follow-up story this week, and it's possibly indicative of climate change, is that they're now being reported again in the UK.
mm, mm.
So, it's one of those things where actually, again, archaeology is relevant to what we're doing now because it can help people studying how the climate's been, where the climate went, and where it's going now.
Mm, mm,
So it's just a perfect little encapsulation of a number of things. Why do archaeology? Why keep archives?
mhm,
Because you don't always know what's relevant, but somebody in future might find something really important.
mhm.
And the fact that we never stop learning.
Yeah, and also again, this ties in with the previous segment in so much as it's a good argument for having well-funded and consistently catalogued and
Accessible.
accessible, visitable,
Yeah,
revisitable archives,
yeah.
and it is very interesting that these bog beetles in the Life Science headline are as old as Egypt's pyramids, and yet they are beautifully preserved. Their form and
Oh,
the long antenna sort of I don't even is it a feeler, I think, not an that stretches
look,
back over the.
I'm not an entomologist, so I don't. But yeah, right.
They're
No,
beautifully preserved.
well, I mean, perhaps worth just explaining. They were found in a waterlogged oak log
Hmm.
that was being dug out by a farmer
Yes.
who thought they were interesting and reported them.
Yeah.
Um, so again, somebody they could have just been discarded or
Hmm.
not even noticed, but they found their way into the Natural History Museum archive,
Hmm.
and then we get this new piece of learning from them, which is lovely.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um. It reminds me of was it a couple of years ago now? There was a story of the human skull from Morocco that put back Homo sapiens by about 100,000 years. In terms of the existence of the species, archives.
Yeah.
Wonderful things.
Yes.
That was a short, sharp, sweet little segment, wasn't it? I'm
Wow.
stunned,
Why?
stunned.
So
Um,
we should probably beetle on and head for our next segment.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.